there is now new mixed messaging from the CDC. Last week, the agency slashed the isolation period to 5 days for asymptomatic COVID patients, but now that guidance is being directly contradicted.
What we do know is that the PCR test after infection can be positive for up to 12 weeks. So that is not going to be helpful. You're not going to be transmitting during all of that period of time. We've seen that in study after study.
There has been some concern about why we don't ask people at that 5-day period to get tested. That is something that is now under consideration. The CDC is very well aware that there has been some pushback about that.
And after backing lockdowns and mandates, some Democrats appear to be taking a different approach to the pandemic.
We have to live with COVID and modify our behavior, because another variant comes out. What are we going to do? We're going to shut down our city? We spent $11 trillion on COVID. We don't have another $11 trillion. It's time to live with COVID.
This is not going to last very long. We're going to be in the throes of this wave of infection for maybe a month. Here in the Northeast, I think you're going to see infections peak out within the next 2 weeks. So hopefully New York City does find a peak within the next 2 weeks. London, which is about 2 to 3 weeks behind New York City, has already peaked and is probably on the way down. So this is a very fast-moving wave of infection. On the back end of this, hopefully we're done with COVID for a while. We'll have enough immunity in the population between vaccination or infections. So we really need to get through this month.
So, Jesse, before Christmas, the Biden administration said they're going to get 500 million tests and send them out to Americans. But by the time those tests get there, if Dr. Gottlieb is correct, then it will be on the back end of this surge.
Dana, there's the science, and then there's the science that people say is the science to get you to do what they want you to do. If you can tell the difference between those things, you'll be fine. And now vaxxed Democrats are getting breakthrough cases of the Cron. And they're having a breakthrough case of clarity, and they're saying, wait, I can tell the difference now. Maybe we shouldn't be shutting schools down. Maybe we shouldn't be firing nurses. Maybe vax people can transmit this thing. So you're seeing now a retreat in the war against the virus by the left, and they're circling back to where conservatives have been for months, if not years. Forget about what they say. Look what they do. AOC flocked to Florida to party in Miami. She didn't go to California. Does it seem like AOC is taking Anthony Fauci seriously? Not even Fauci is taking Fauci seriously. He slashed the quarantine time in half because he said, we don't want to upset the economy too much. Whoa! That all of a sudden is a consideration? And now the experts are saying, wait a second, masks might not be effective. So for those people keeping score at home, that's 3 times they've changed their position on masks. The media is now reframing this thing as a bipartisan menace. Oh, you know, it shouldn't be a stigma attached to catching COVID-19. Shouldn't be ashamed of catching the virus. Oh, thanks, guys. Where's that been? Now, MSNBC came out and said this. The flu can still be dangerous, but we don't reorient our lives around the flu. It's basically what Donald Trump said 2 years ago, and he was killed for that. CNN just came out with a report today. You know, if you lose weight, you might help by beating COVID. I mean, we've known that for what, a year and a half? Where have they been on this? Joe Biden finally said, you know what, guys, it's governors. They're on the front lines. Governors really, they're really going to have a lot to work to do here. Isn't that Trump's position? The federal government can help the states? Joe Biden's entire presidency has been a fraud. We were supposed to put this guy in office because he was the one man, the one Democrat who had the compassion to beat this virus. And he threw everything at this thing. Now, all of a sudden, he's not the guy. He can't beat this thing. And the same people that pushed this fraud, this lie that he could do it, are now saying, you know what? Can't do it. Everyone's going to get the Cron. We got to live with it. No, we're all getting back to where Florida has been from the jump. Got to be smart, got to be safe, and you got to be free. It's just taking the Democrats a little longer to get there.
So is that a positive then, Greg? If everyone is getting back to that same place where others have been all along, can we make some progress going forward?
I hope so. I mean, look at me. I'm so alone. Where I'm seated, I'm alone. I'm not. Harold's not here. No, but I'm more alone than you are, Judge.
I'm alone.
I'm more alone. I'm the real victim. I have been out sick. I have been out sick for 8 days. with the flu. So I'm not getting any sympathy from anyone. I can't say, oh, I got COVID because I tested negative. So now I'm sweating like an arsonist. I cough like a casino smoker. Nobody cares. And I'm sitting here alone like a brain cell in Don Lemon's skull. I'm like the only non-sex offender at CNN. I'm so alone. But see, it is infuriating that the Democrats and the media are suddenly getting it, but it tells you that rule that nothing ever happens in the world unless it happens to them. And this was true with COVID, it was true with crime, and it was true with inflation. All the big stories that affect the general public generally don't become an intimate reality, especially with the media, until all of a sudden it's their organically raised chicken that went up 33 cents, right? Or their Pilates instructor got COVID. Then it's a different story. I think Fauci really said it best when he was talking about how this was really about how much could we get the public to endure? How much could we get the public to take before they've had enough? I think what we're seeing is that they realize that they've pushed America pretty far. They can't push it. They can't push this any further. I always go back to the February 1st cutoff. That's when it's over. And I'm not going to go after people for changing their minds when they get new information. I would congratulate them on coming around, even though they didn't give us the same best intentions when any of us said, many of us here at this table or this fantasy table said all of these things. We said that the Omicron was going to be widely contagious but benign and would probably act as a natural immune booster. We were laughed about that. That now turns out to be conventionally expert advice. But we were way ahead of the game on all of these things, and people thought we were crazy. And now we're expected now to say, you know what? I'm glad you came around to our way of thinking. It's hard to do, but we should do it.